another one was the Cowboys beating the Eagles 24-21. Called that on our weekly staff picks. I think anybody who watched that first matchup, the way that defensive line was so undermanned and the way that they played the Eagles, you knew when they got Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams and they upgraded the way that they did, that they were going to be able to shut down this running game, and they did. Now, the manner in which this happened, I did not expect. 21-0 Eagles at half, and then 24-21 a Cowboys victory. Albert, you talked to Schotty after this one. What's going on there?
Look, like he made the comment, and he, like, people poke fun of it, but he made the comment that I want to have the best culture, I think, in the history of professional sports, whatever it was, right? And I think it was just really his way of saying we're really going to prioritize the environment in the building and what the guys are coming in to work with every day, all of that. I think you saw it. Like, the energy that team was playing with in the second half of that game just jumped off the screen. I don't know if you saw the video of the guy on kick coverage, Clark, Elijah Clark, I think is his name. Forgive me if I'm messing up the first name. I think it's Elijah Clark, where he was the gunner and the Eagles cover guy. I think it was, I think it was Sidney Brown, right? The corner on their punt return team knocked him to the ground twice. And Elijah Clark still made it.
Yep.
Inside the 10-yard line.
It was incredible. Like there's a clip of it online. He's blasted and gets knocked out twice and still makes it down the field at a full sprint to be able to jar the ball loose. It's incredible.
Right. And I just think, like, there's little things like that you can see where it's like, it's weird because, like, you look at somebody like George Pickens, right, who had all kinds of issues in Pittsburgh. And, like, you always think, like, I always think in my head, like, I would never want a player that Mike Tomlin's willing to trade away, right? Like, because he's so good at managing personalities and egos and all that different stuff that when he's done with somebody, you just sort of feel like, okay, like, you know, like, I'd probably be really careful about acquiring that guy. They're maximizing George Pickens. And I think a lot of it's because of the environment there, you know, like it's just, you know, you see young players developing. You see the energy the team is playing with. You see they're down 21-0. There's no quit. Obviously, there's the storyline of just the most awful, unspeakable tragedy that happened a couple of weeks ago there. That's way bigger than football, but, you know, like I do think that they've rallied around each other. I'm just so impressed. And I think the other thing is too, like, and I think you got to give Will McClay and the personnel department credit for this, is it does feel like they had a vision for replacing Micah Parsons, you know? And, like, I think maybe some people owe those guys an apology, because I look at, like, and you think about, like, the Matt Eberflus defense, right? And when it was at its best in Indianapolis, it was built around a really disruptive defensive tackle in DeForest Buckner, and another guy who could really make that happen too, in Grover Stewart. And they went to a 5-man front, you know, about a month ago, and they started playing more out of a 5-man front, which for people who don't know, it gives you a chance to get more interior defensive linemen on the field at once. And so they pay Osa Odighizuwa in the offseason. They trade for Kenny Clark as part of the Micah Parsons trade, and then they bring in Quinnen Williams. And on Monday night against the Raiders, they hit the quarterback 11 times. 9 of those 11 hits were from those 3 defensive tackles, which is an insane number. Defensive tackles don't hit the quarterback at the same rate that edge players or blitzers do. And so I don't know, man. Like, I look at it like, you look at the totality of it now, and they still have 2 first-round picks in April, and they've got, like, now, like, a defensive front that maybe isn't quite what it was with Parsons there, but is really fits what Matt Eberflus is looking to do. The defense is no longer a weakness, and the offense looks explosive as all hell with, you know, George Pickens playing. And I still don't know if I'd pay him based on his history, but right now he looks like one of the best receivers in football, and he's playing opposite a guy who happens to be better than him, CeeDee Lamb. It's a really good Cowboys team right now. Like, and I'm just talking about the vacuum for where they are. I don't know, Conor. I know you're, like, kind of like rubbing your eyes right now and everything.
No,
but
you know what it is? It's a headache for me, because when you run your mouth for a living, like I do, there are times where you write checks that your ass can't cash, and I fear that I have done that with the Dallas Cowboys. And
I mean, Overshawn coming back is huge for them. And that's one that, like, I don't know. He made plays yesterday. Like, it reminded me, like, holy crap, I forgot. This is a freak show,
I
of a player.
I know.
And, like,
And I knew like at 21-0. So, when you have your TV, and so, you have a couple different screens, and I'm writing, and you're texting some people. And then, when your TV shuts down due to inactivity because you haven't touched it in a while, which annoys the
yep,
shit out of me. So it happened at
sleep
halftime.
mode or whatever.
Yeah. So it happened at the halftime of the Cowboys Eagles game. And then one of my kids is running around with the remote. The baby loves the remote. And so she throws it in the playpen, and then it just gets lost. And so I'm thinking to myself, I got to find that remote because the Cowboys are coming back in this game. And I could feel it. And even the way that game started, it just didn't feel like Dallas was completely out of it. And that scares me. And I guess, I think two things can be true. The thought process and where Dallas landed with the whole Micah Parsons trade can still not make sense to you, and it doesn't make sense to me, and it might make sense to somebody else. Like, so you cannot like that, but you can appreciate what they're doing right now. Like, some teams just get on a heater and then you upgrade at the trade deadline, and it just changes the complexion of the team. And I think now that Dallas has a half decent rush defense, like, I mean, God, everything that Jerry Jones looked at and backed up and said is coming to fruition. And again, very frustrating for someone like me who spent the better part of the last 3 months absolutely killing that guy,
I mean, what I would give them respect for too, because this is not an easy thing to do, right? Is you realize, like, I think they looked at it and they said Dak Prescott's making 60, CeeDee Lamb's making 34. If we pay Micah 42, 43, whatever it is, like, now we're looking at, like, really locking in on what we already have on the roster and where has that really gotten us?
Right.
I can tell you for a fact in August, like, those questions were being bounced around in that building. Like if we stay the course on what we've already done, where is that going to take us? Or do we want to shake things up? And there was some risk involved, of course. Like, they don't know they're getting Quinnen Williams. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, in the first week of November,
Right.
like, they don't know that. Like, so they just have to, like, have faith that at some point there's going to be some opportunity that's going to come along where they're going to feel good about the flexibility they gave themselves. And like, what wound up happening is they got a star defensive lineman who may not be what Micah is, but isn't that far off for like half the price financially. They wind up with better draft picks in the wash. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's hard not to look at this and think, like, a lot of people, and this is not directed at you, Connor.
It can be.
A lot of people look dumb for things that were said in August now. You know what I mean? Like, because it does look like the flexibility that they afforded themselves by staying the course of the current setup, we may be damned to the same outcome, and maybe we need to shake things up, giving themselves the flexibility to change the roster over and do some different things really seems to have worked out.
Not for me. That's all I'm saying. On the flip side,
on the flip side of the Eagles, are we now officially concerned?
No,
they're not.
No,
and my answer is no. My answer is no.
Like, I get that we do this for a living, and I have all the respect. The Eagles are the best covered team in the NFL, and I say that week in and week out, and I mean that. And I'm not blaming this on the Philly media in large part, but like, the weekly melodrama there is exhausting. It's exhausting. And you know what it does? It, like, the fact that AJ Brown makes it all the way to getting, taken out of practice, and he gets to talk to Jeffrey Lurie, it empowers more receiver insanity around the NFL. And we're seeing it in ways that I don't remember, where these guys will just say the craziest shit after games. And I know this goes back to, like, even beyond Keyshawn Johnson. Like, I know that. I remember when Keyshawn Johnson's book came out, and I was like, whatever, 10 years old. I remember that vividly, and like all the coverage that got. But we are in a new golden age of receivers not understanding nuances of football and that they can't get 31 targets a game. It's insane to me. And the fact that like now AJ Brown gets the ball and he rips it up in the first half, and now Sirianni and Petula are getting banged for taking their foot off the gas, and like, oh, like sometimes this happens. Like you lose 6 times in a season. You know what I mean? And that's still a really good season. I don't know, but I get it. You have to analyze everything, and you can't sit here and say like, okay, well, you win some, you lose some. I understand that too, but my God.
I used to say that, like, you know, in Boston, when the Red Sox were a really big deal, and they're not as much anymore, but like 20 years ago, well, the Red Sox were clearly the number one team in Boston, even when the Patriots started winning Super Bowls. I remember like saying to somebody, people here treat baseball games like they're football games, in that like they would react off of a baseball game like there were 16 of them instead of 162, you know?
Right.
And it's almost like the Eagles do that. Like you scale that to like how Philly treats football games. It's like every game is week 17, you know, with the season on the line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like every single week. And that's a pressure cooker to exist in. Dak threw for 354 yards. But how many of those plays were like spectacular plays by George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb? Like, it's not like guys were running free through the secondary.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there were plays where Mitchell or DeJean or Makuba, like guys were right freaking there. And it was just, you know, the Cowboys got on a heater there. And I was like I said, like I thought that was just a great football game all the way around. And to me, the thing that stuck out about it is you got this Eagles team that's wildly physically talented. And here to me is like one of my biggest takeaway and how this is going to translate going forward. The Cowboys looked as big, as strong, and as fast as the Eagles.
And they did in week 1 too, in fairness to Dallas.
Yeah.
Before they went through their, you know. So are we prisoner of the moment?
And this time was with Jalen Carter out there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a spitting epidemic in the NFL and in college now. And did you see, because Jamar Chase, he wasn't there for the Bengals game,
right.
Patriots game this weekend. 2 Colorado State players, I believe, were suspended.
They might have won that game. They probably would have beaten the Patriots if Jamar Chase was.
Isn't that funny? And then 2 Colorado State players were suspended for spitting over the weekend. Or was it 1 or 2? I didn't
see any of this, so I don't know. But 2? So like, what happened? Was it like, did they plan it out? Was it like synchronized spitting? Or
let me see. Brian Fisher, our college football reporter, had it. But all I'll say is this: you know, the people are right. Everyone shouted down my spitting take, Albert. And instead of spitting at someone, you should punch them in the face. You should, or you should bring a weapon on the field, because that's far more honorable than spitting on someone. So that's that. You know. I mean, the people have spoken. Nobody agrees with me.
Jalen Carter, trendsetter.
All right.
Although I guess the other trend he said hasn't slowed down. I don't know if you guys saw, but more Georgia people got arrested for driving in a reckless fashion over the weekend.
People need something to do in that state. There's just not a whole lot going on.